Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast. Hey there, Karma crew. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Mind Your Own Karma Beyond the Bandage. If you pressed play on this one, I know one thing about you. You are ready to open your mind to what lies beyond this life, or maybe even many lifetimes. We're diving into a conversation that stretches across dimensions of time and consciousness today. My returning guest is Craig Meriwether, a certified clinical hypnotherapist and past life regression specialist. He helps people access their subconscious mind to heal trauma, not just from this life, but possibly from past ones too. It's time to rip off the bandage and dive in, because this episode might just change your life. We're welcoming Craig Meriwether back to the show today. Hi, Craig.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am
Good
great.
to speak with you again.
Yes, I know. It's great to have you back on the show. We are talking about past lives today. You and I both know that healing is not like a linear process. It can be layered, it can be messy. And I believe that sometimes it can even stretch into boundaries of past lifetime. So I want to kind of take the listeners, excuse me, into that bigger space with you. So let's start peeling that back.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be a vast and a deep conversation. So it's always fun and interesting. So let's do it.
All right. So for those who are hearing about this for the first time, how do you describe what past life regression really is beyond the Hollywood cliches and what we see in movies and on stage?
Yeah, the idea is that we are spiritual beings and we have souls, and that these souls exist outside of our time here on Earth in this current life that we're having right now. That we come to Earth and incarnate as people in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to develop as souls. One of the great books out there that describes this really well is Michael Newton's Journey of Souls and the Follow-Up Destiny of Souls.
Yeah.
He was a psychotherapist working in, I think, 1969, when he accidentally regressed somebody back into spirit realm, or the soul world, or life between lives, as he's called it. He thought he was going to regress somebody as a psychotherapist, as a hypnotherapist, back to childhood to deal with some issues. Instead, this person went all the way back into soul world. And this fascinated Dr. Newton. He wanted to figure out if he could do it again. And so he started kind of experimenting, working with people. And over some years and working with lots and lots of people, he developed this protocol in order to start moving people back in memory to their time as just a soul in this soul world. What he found fascinating as he worked with more and more people in the 1970s is that people kept having the same experience. It's somewhat different, but they all kind of had the same experience of reuniting with their soul family, their soul group. That they would, go to the spiritual library to look up other past lives, or the past life viewing room, or go to the healing space, meet the council of elders to discuss how things went in the past life or other lives, and how growth is going. And all these people, even though they didn't know each other, it's obviously 1970s, there's no internet, they're not connecting with each other. They different ages, different cultures, ethnicities, yet they're all having similar experiences. And he writes about this in his book, which came out in 1992. So he had about 20 years experience working with thousands of people who all had similar experiences. And the experience is that we are souls. And as a new soul, we get placed in a group. And it's sort of like you meet all your friends in first grade, and that group goes all the way to getting their master's degree in being a human, or not a human, but being a soul, being a spirit. And part of those lessons that you learn involve incarnating here on Earth in order to learn, in order to grow. And so what past life regression can do is help you remember some of those past lives you've experienced throughout your time as a soul, in order to help progress your healing, your learning, your development. And I said healing there because sometimes there is aspects of these lives that kind of connect to us, that follow us, if you will, that need to be resolved. They didn't get resolved in that past life. and they need to get resolved in this life in order for you to move forward. And so it's not that you're going back and living this life again. You're not going to get stuck in this past life. You're not living. It's just a memory. Just as you can't get stuck in your memory of what you ate for lunch last Sunday. You can't get stuck in the memory of how you got yourself to the airport when you took that trip to wherever. That memory of high school prom, or if you played sports or were in theater or band or smoked cigarettes behind the school gym. You cannot get stuck in those memories, or as early childhood memories, if you can remember super early stuff. This is what this is. And all we're doing in terms of past life regression is, if I was to have a conversation with somebody who says, "Oh, tell me about what happened last week when you took that trip," or tell me what happened about going to the airport and the traffic jam, or that favorite restaurant you ate at, or the movie you just saw. And you're having a memory, you're having an experience. Maybe if you're at your favorite restaurant, you can talk about the taste of the food. You're out hiking in a beautiful place, you smell the smells of nature, feel the breeze on your skin, the beautiful sun on you. Maybe you're lying down at the beach or swimming in the cool ocean. And you're having these visual experiences, even though you're not there at the beach, in the mountains, at high school prom. And so all you're doing is like swimming in the pool. It's just that when we're having these memories of this life, we're kind of swimming in the shallow part of the pool. All we do in past life regression is go a little bit further. We go a little bit deeper into the deep end of the pool. Sort of like if you ever were a kid and you played in the pool and somebody tossed those rings into the deep end, and you dive down into the deep end, get the rings, and come back. It's the same pool. This is us. This is our soul. It's just oftentimes when we're in this life, we just kind of hang out in the shallow end. Well, this is just going a little bit further. And it's accessing memories, like maybe you're trying to remember a talk you went to a few years ago in order to learn and to grow. Or maybe there was a traumatic experience in your life you need to cut the cords from. Doesn't mean you need to not remember that experience, but to cut the hurt and the pain and the things that may be causing you to not move forward in life. Well, all we're doing is expanding that a little bit further. And instead of a memory of this life, we're looking at a memory in a past life.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Especially the healing part of it. I mean, a lot of us feel like it's just fun to go back and see what I was in a past life, but to actually go back and to heal is amazing. So what pulled you towards this path personally? Was there a moment that you thought, okay, there's more going on here than the conscious mind can explain?
I don't know that there's a specific moment. It's always just fascinated me, spirituality. I grew up in the Episcopal Church and went to a Baptist-run school, so I had this deep indoctrination into religion, Christian religion. And to go to school, I went to the University of California, Santa Cruz. And that's a bit of a hippie-ish kind of town.
Yeah.
And I was there in the 1990s, early 1990s. Well, throughout the whole 1990s, went to school in the early 1990s. And I was introduced to a lot of different cultures. And I got introduced mainly through the music, actually. So I enjoyed listening to music and playing music, and there was all sorts of classes, dance classes, concerts. They had the Ethnic Arts Network, which would hold big, huge festivals of all the different kind of dance you could do, the different kind of music that was in town, the different kind of martial arts you could do. And it introduced me to all these different cultures, these different philosophies, and these different religions, these different thoughts around spirituality. And so I got introduced kind of through the music and through the culture, through food, through dance. And it just fascinated me. There was a lot of bookstores back in Santa Cruz at that point. Probably, I think the downtown area had something ridiculous, like 7 or 8 bookstores, all kind of different themed. And I would just go and always end up in this spirituality section of the bookstore and looking stuff up. And it just was an aspect I was not aware of, past lives. And it just opened up. That was right around the time that Michael Newton book was coming out. The Many Lives, Many Masters had come out in 1988. And that was making a big impression upon people. And so it was just one of those things that introduced me. And as I just I've moved forward since the early 1990s. It's just something that has always grabbed my attention. One of the reasons when I decided to train in hypnotherapy, because it helped me so much. We talked about this, I think, the last time, so I won't go too much into it. But, because of the hurt and pain I'd gone through in my life, one of the things that helped me through that was hypnotherapy. And I loved it so I was so fascinated by that aspect in terms of consciousness and healing and using the subconscious mind to move forward and remove those blocks. I wanted to train in it, but what I was looking for was also the more esoteric side of that work. Because I knew it was out there. And the reason I picked the Hypnotherapy Academy of America is that, one, it's an extraordinarily intensive training program, 2.5 months, 500 hours, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. This isn't some like history class at university. It's, Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour. This is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday for 2.5 months. And the last 2 weeks, the last 100 hours is past life regression. And so you get this foundation of clinical hypnotherapy dealing with trauma in this life, lack of confidence, lack of feeling worthy, the other things that you might use hypnotherapy for, including medical hypnosis like pain control and healing acceleration. And once you have this basis, this foundation, then you learn past life regression. In fact, I even had taken a break after I learned medical hypnosis for a year, just to kind of settle in to that work. And then about a year later, took the last 2 weeks, last semester. And the reason I picked that training with the Hypnotherapy Academy, specifically with them, and a big part of why I wanted to do hypnotherapy because of this deeper work in the spiritual realm. And of course, past life regression is a big part of that. I think a lot of people get into the more spiritual aspects of hypnotherapy because of past life regression, but there's of course more aspects to it than that, like connecting with your guides, connecting with healing any sort of ancestral issues that may be along your ancestral line, and any kind of spiritual tune-up that you might be needing in this life. But past life regression is certainly one that's most fascinating because, one, it's just fascinating and interesting to discover any past lives you might have had in throughout your existence as a soul. But it's also the healing, like you mentioned a little bit ago. The healing is so important around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a group past life regression one time at a spiritual fair, and I was thinking, this isn't going to work, with all these people in here. And, I was surprised that when the doors opened to this elevator that she had us in going down, 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 that I was in somebody else's body, and it was like a man's body, like in Pakistan or something. I can't even remember all the details of where I was, but I was literally walking in this body. I could see my clothes and everything. And I was like walking through this town where there was like little shops and people selling stuff. And it was crazy. I just was blown away how easy it was for me. So how does someone usually know they're ready or even meant for this type of work?
Well, it's that intuition. And it's like anything. Why do you like the music you like? Why you like the food that you like? Why you like the TV shows you like? There's lots of interesting music out there, but you're drawn to something for some reason. And so I believe it's your higher self tapping you on your shoulder, that big soul part of you that is tapping you on your shoulder saying, now is the time. Because I'll have people call me up. We'll have a consultation call before the appointment, which I'm happy to talk to anybody about this work. And they'll say, okay, well, I have these issues that I know are within this current life that, have this relationship that broke up and a lot of hurt and pain from that. And I had some trauma growing up within my family. And there are specific issues within this life that need resolution. But I also know that I have a past life. Maybe they've been to a medium or a psychic or somebody or channeler, or they just feel it, or they read one of the Brian Weiss's books or Dolores Cannon or Michael Newton or somebody says, I feel drawn to this for some reason. And it's usually how they get it, through a book or hearing somebody speak about it. And which should I do first? And to me, the answer is, well, which one feels best? There isn't like a, elementary school, high school, college kind of idea around healing. It's what is your intuition telling you? If I was to tell you right now, oh no, you definitely need to do the hypnotherapy for this current life first, do you feel disappointed?
Yeah.
Or do you feel relieved? That's going to tell you right there. Because in and of itself, you know, I, I care about you, of course, as a human being, as a person in pain who wants healing. But in terms of how you achieve that is up to you. Because I don't know you, and I don't know what is best for you, but you do.
Yeah.
And your subconscious, and you can use that feeling state of disappointment or relief or excitement as a signal.
Yeah. I
To
always use
which one's
flipping a
best.
coin. Yeah. I
Yeah,
always tell my clients, flip a coin. If it turns up
yeah,
no, how do you feel? Is it,
mhm.
disappointing or what? Yeah. And
Yeah,
people are like,
exact
oh
same
my
thing.
gosh, that's so easy to do. Like it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
revelation.
and it's interesting doing it in a big group too, because again, in and of itself, the person doing the past life regression isn't doing anything to you
Yeah.
per se. This isn't a massage or Reiki or something like that. This is guiding a person into their own experience. Now, with a group, of course, you have to be a little more general about it, obviously. And you can't have that one-on-one experience where you're having them explain what is happening. So you can
Yeah.
focus um, on the healing that needs to happen. And that's super important when you work one-on-one, because what is it you're looking for, and as you move through that past life, specific things will become obvious as to, okay, well, this connection needs to be cut and this issue needs to be resolved and this thing needs to be healed, which you can do up in that soul world where you go after you end that life. And so with a big group, of course, you can't have that personal experience, because when you're doing a past life regression, you are aware. Again, just like if I was to have somebody close their eyes and just say, please tell me about the last time you went to a restaurant and what you had to eat. You're aware of it, you're talking to me, but you're not conscious of this present moment. Tell me about something fun or weird or strange that happened in high school. Tell me about high school prom. What did you wear? How'd you get there? You went in a limousine? Where'd you go to, who'd you go with? Tell me about that person. And so, oh yeah, I remember that. Well, you're not specifically in this present moment. You've dropped down in that alpha brainwave state and you're remembering the past. You're not in the past, but you're remembering things and you're telling me about it. You're in this altered state of consciousness, but you're conscious enough and aware enough that we can have a conversation. I can ask you questions. Well, what color was the dress? What color was the tuxedo? What color was the limousine? What kind of music did they play? And you go, oh, well, is this, and have a conversation. Well, obviously with a group, you can't do that and you have to be very general, but it can still be very powerful because you have that experience. I went to a Brian Weiss workshop actually quite recently, and there's 700 people in there. And he'd done a workshop the weekend before with probably another 700 people. And so there's 700 of us doing a couple past life regressions a day. And it's because you have your own experience.
Yeah.
And having said that, it's not always a point of view kind of experience. Like I felt myself walking around in a bike. That certainly can be part of it. But it may be that you're watching it like an interested observer. Like you're standing off to the side. It's like, oh yeah, that's me walking across the field there. Oh, and these other people are coming towards me. Maybe like you're sitting in a movie theater and you're watching it up on a screen. Or maybe it's more just like a narrative. Maybe you don't really see anything at all. You're just kind of getting a notion of, or maybe see kind of hazy, vague images, or maybe just still shots like pictures. Maybe you're just downloading the information. The experience will come to you in the way you need it to. So next time, Melissa, you may have one past life experience and may be totally different than what you did, because the information will come to you in the way you need it. And so if it's going to be an intense experience, maybe you don't want to be in it. If you're storming Normandy Beach in 1945, you may not want that to be a point of view experience like, Saving Private Ryan. That was, even that, Sweetening Up on
I
Movies.
kind of had one of those once.
So maybe you need to be removed from it. Your spirit guide, your own higher self will present it to you in a way that's safe for you and gentle for you. And you're also going to remember that this information, while I use the analogy of remembering what you had for lunch last week or high school prom or something. This is a bit different, and it doesn't actually, kind of lock in place well, because what you're really doing is pulling in kind of 5D information into a 3D brain.
Mm.
And so it has to present this information to you in a way that will be you can understand it. All right. And so if if people ever saw that movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, and they take the rocket ship and have to go to the different planets and solve that. And not to give anything away, especially because this is a, I don't know, 15-year-old movie. So you should have seen it by now. But it's a great movie, and I'm not getting anything away because it's so convoluted and an incredible movie. But at the end, he's kind of in this 5D world, and he's trying to communicate with the 3D world, hence the books and the things. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking. If you haven't seen the movie, watch it. It's pretty cool. But the whole thing with the books and the dust and all that thing, he's trying to communicate from a 5D world to a 3D world. And that's what's happening here, is we're pulling in this information, and we can go in, if you want, into more of the biology of it and the pineal gland and all that. But pulling in this 5D information through this antenna of the pineal gland of our brain, which then has to change it back into 3D information. So sometimes it may, come to you in a little bit different way, like you see it on a movie screen, or you just feel like you're downloading, or there's hazy images or something. And so it'll come to you in the way you need it, and the way your brain can process this. And it's not just that it ends the minute they say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fully aware and alert. The insights will still come to you in the days and weeks and maybe months afterwards, maybe years afterwards. You'll see a book in a bookshop window, you hear a conversation at a coffee shop, you'll see a bumper sticker on a car, and some things will start to click. I was like, oh, wait, that kind of fits with, you see a documentary about the time that you went back to because you wanted more information. Oh, now this starts making sense.
Yeah.
And so what you want to do in a past life regression is just pull in as much information as possible, because you don't have weeks and months, years to analyze all the information.
Do you ever get somebody that doesn't get anything? Is blank, just nothing happening?
Not particularly. They always have an experience. They may, the thing that I think people get frustrated with is they don't have the experience that they wanted.
Mm.
And they want that experience they read about in the Brian Weiss book, or they want that experience that Dolores Cannon had that she told everybody about, or that their friend had. And if they don't have, it's because I have people who work with somebody who they're giving me information. I was walking them through or helping them, move through these experiences. But because it didn't show up the way they wanted it to, they insisted it didn't happen.
Mm.
Well, I didn't have a past life regression. It's like, you literally told me about all these things. Well, I know, but I didn't live in, I don't know quite, they couldn't explain what the issue was because I kept one, but you said all these things and you had this experience, and at the end you told me how you passed, and but it wasn't a past life regression. And that's why I try to be very, very clear in my emails to people when we're setting up an appointment and during the consultation call, and even when we meet for the appointment, and whether it's over Zoom, something like this, or an in-person session, saying, okay, this is going to be the experience that you have, which may not be what you read about in Brian Weiss.
Yeah.
It might be very different. That Brian Weiss has been doing this since the early 80s. He's been doing it for 40 years. He's worked with thousands. He worked with 700 people one weekend.
Yeah, and he's going to pick all his best stories and put them in a book. So
he puts 5 stories in a book.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he's going to pick the ones that are most colorful and most interesting and to the point of what the theme of the book is, and ignore the other 1,000 experiences that people have had over the years with him.
Yeah.
And so that's the most, I think, frustrating thing for people is they want it to look like, a movie, and it may not come to them like that. And the only person, that one sticks out to me as somebody who had an experience. I have a recording of it, of them having this experience and then denying the experience because it didn't show up the way they wanted it to. because it didn't sound like the Brian Weiss book. So I find that if you're coming to, I mean, if you're setting up an appointment and we've talked and we've emailed, and generally you've done the research around this or been thinking about it for probably some time. Generally, people just don't hear about it yesterday and make an appointment for tomorrow. It's taken some months, if not years, for them to finally say, okay, I want to do this now, having read the books and seen the video lectures and things like that, having heard other people's experiences maybe. And so they're open to it and they're ready for it. And so they'll have it. Again, this is just like, you know, somebody, well, I don't know if I can remember last week. I know you can't remember every single little thing of what happened in high school. And that's the thing with the past life regression. I mean, if somebody lived to 90 years, obviously we can't go through 90 years of that past life. Just like however old you are right now, you can't in this next hour and a half tell me about everything that's happened to you up until your age today. So we pick, 4 or 5 different significant events in that life that have to do with what you want to look at. And so if, it could be as general as go back to the past life that is most influencing your current life. Or if somebody's dealing with some anger or some anxiety that has an unknown cause, like they've been to therapy for years and they've worked on themselves and they still have this anger within their heart or this anxiety about just life and they can't figure out what it is. And now they're getting the intuition that maybe it's a past life. Okay, well, go back to the past life that is influencing this anger and go back to past life that is causing this anxiety, however the phrase needs to be. And that's kind of tuning the channel because there's lots of TV shows out there. Well, you know which TV show you want to watch, and now you can click the channel to the right thing. So it's kind of like focusing that antenna of the pineal gland to the right channel that you want to look at, the right life you want to look at. And so people will have an issue that they want to work on usually, often, or sometimes maybe it's just for fun. They read the books, somebody else had an experience, they've always wanted to try it. So it might just be for insights and discovery and to explore, which is really fun too. But in terms of that experience, we're only going to look at, only, quote unquote, only going to look at 3, 4, 5 different scenes in that past life. Now, they may be years and decades apart and not in chronological order, but we're only, in terms of the timing involved, and especially wanting to move up to spirit world to kind of release and let go and create some healing and some more discovery around your purpose in this current life. There's only so much time during a session, even if it's a longer session, like one of the 3 or 4 hour sessions, there's really only so much time you have to look at that past life. So we're going to pick 3 or 4 different scenes. And it's as simple as, okay, well, now you're going to leave that scene and you're going to go to the next significant event in that life that has to do with healing the anger in this current life. I'm going to count to 3. You'll be at the next important scene. 1, 2, 3, be there now, whether you're younger, older, or the same age. Because I've had people, sometimes it's chronological. They start at age 12, then they're 22, and then they're 35, and then they're 80. I've had other people kind of jump around. So they start at 25, then they're 9, and then they're 52, and then they're 27. And, you jump around. I've had somebody who did a World War II situation in just 3 days. His entire situation took place over 3 days in World War II, because that's what he needed to heal and release and let go, not decades worth of issues in that life, just this 3 days of this World War II experience. And so we did, 4 or so significant events in that life that all had to do within hours of each other.
Yeah.
Over the course of
Let's talk about trauma that comes up and the healing part of it. So does just realizing and seeing, it stems from this past life, thing that happened to me, is that all it takes to heal? Is there do you put a new ending on it? Like how does that healing part look like?
The recognition that something happened to you often brings a lot of relief that this, whether it's anger, anxiety, or even physical pain, once you understand, it had to do with this, there's a lot of that heaviness can be released right then. But we do go to the end of that life. Let's say something happened to them when they're 20, they live to be 80. We get to the end of life, and that's what's important because that's usually a throwing action. That's where the connections happen to this current life. What are you holding on to as you pass?
Mm.
Are you upset about that life? Is life fair or unfair? What do you think about love? What do you think about relationships? Are you carrying anger with you? Are you carrying fear with you? And as you leave the body as a spirit, what are you holding on to? Are you vowing revenge in your next life? And then once that aspect of the past life regression is over, that life is over, and you're in spirit form again, we move up to spirit world, that life between lives that Michael Newton talks about. And that's where healing happens.
Mm.
And we always go, assuming it's not just a discovery or a fun experience, but there's healing that needs to happen. It happens in the soul world. What better place to start letting go and disconnecting those cords? And people's healing experience is different. Again, this is pulling in 5D information into a 3D brain. So you have that experience within your 3D brain. But some people go to the healing place within the life between lives, and maybe they go with their spirit guide. Maybe there's other healing beings there that help, kind of like a hospital, like a spirit hospital or something. Maybe they're on their own. Maybe the healing has to do with an energetic healing or a spiritual healing, or it involves light or water or some other way. Again, I don't know that there's water or light or spirit hospital in life between lives. But again, that's how the brain needs to process this 5D information, by putting it into a 3D context. But that's where the healing happens. And if you need help within that healing place, you have it. There's healing beings, there's their spirit guide. And we take time to do that healing and pulling the cords. And I start my book, the Past Lives Guidebook, with a story of somebody actually creating a physical healing. And she had something like 20 years of hip pain, chronic daily hip pain, that she'd been up to all the doctors, all the physical therapists, all the MRIs, all the x-rays, nothing. Nobody could figure out what this pain was about. We're doing a past life regression, and we take time during that spirit world experience, meeting your soul family with your spirit guide, the counsel, whatever your experience is going to be. But we always make time for the healing place. Again, however that shows up for you. And part of that is pulling the cords. So pull the cords. Now, she didn't tell me about hip pain. I had no idea she was in any physical pain whatsoever. She didn't tell me about it. That's not what we were working on, or that's not what the experience she was looking for. But I always check up on people a few days later. Say, how are you doing? Just if you have any questions, just want to see how things are going. And she emailed me back and said, yeah, the hip pain I've had for 20 years is gone. That's literally the first line of my book. And she told me this experience of, there was a big, huge cord on her hip. And when now we were doing the process of pulling the cords, of which I'm silent and giving them time to do their healing work, which may be minutes, 5, 6, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, what people need to do their healing work, that while I'm silent. And I'm checking on their ecology. I'm making sure they're okay. And you can tell people are doing their work. Their eyes are moving around, or they're grimacing, or I'm making sure they're okay. But I give them their privacy to do this deep healing work. And they're she says she's pulling the cord, she couldn't get it out. So she asked her spirit guide to help her start, and they couldn't get it out either. And so they had all the spirit guides come over, all the healing beings, spirit beings come over and help them. Sort of like one of those tug of war things. You think, they started just pulling it out, pulling it out, pulling it out. Finally, it came out. And she emailed me 2 or 3 days later, says, yeah, I haven't had hip pain in like 3 days. First time in 20 years, I haven't had hip pain.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
She didn't explain that to me. She didn't talk about that's what she wanted to heal. But it's like, oh, well, I'm here. I might as well heal this too. Look at this big, gigantic cord on my hip. No wonder I'm having pain. And so this isn't just about, the spiritual healing and the resolution you may get around an emotional issue or a mindset issue. People have physical healings within their body. We know this from books like The Body Keeps the Score,
Yeah.
and other books like this, the low back pain, or the pain in your heart, or what the other issues of where you hold on to that hurt and that pain. It's like, well, what if it's, again, just like a memory? What if you're just extending a little bit further, not the trauma somebody may have experienced as a child. What if the trauma experienced in a past life that didn't get resolved? That you
I had
didn't.
one where I was like a Viking in some war, and my horse fell on my hips, and so my hips were broken. Well, I've had both my hips replaced now in this life. I was born with hip dysplasia. So it was so crazy, but I didn't get to the healing part. So maybe I need to go back and do that.
Yeah, that's a big issue, I think. Well, especially at the big group experiences. Obviously, you can't go if you have, 20 people, let alone 500 or whatever in a Brian Weiss workshop.
Yeah.
I go to every person and it's like, are you done? Is this resolved? They have to have their experience. That's why it has to be somewhat generalized and kind of broad, and try not to lead people into a situation where they experience a traumatic event and require that right then and there. But hopefully, maybe leads them. Oh, this is an interesting experience. I think I can go deeper. But in terms of working with somebody, the healing's paramount, the most important, especially in the work as I was trained in, and they that was an important aspect uh, during school was the healing aspect of this. Yes, it can be fun. It can be extraordinary to have these insights and make these discoveries and see how you're connected to other people in your current life. See that they've played parts, because we come together with our soulmates, our soul group, our soul family. It's sort of like a theater troupe. Like let's say there's a theater troupe in your town, local community theater of 8 actors, and they do 6 plays during the year. Well, they're going to choose the play, the story they want to tell, what these characters are going to learn, and how they're going to grow during this story that's being told. They're going to get the costumes. They're going to choose who's going to play what role. And then they're going to do another play. And then they're going to differentiate the roles. Maybe one play, the actor and actress are mother and father, and the next they're married, and then the next they're brother and sister, and the next they're just acquaintances in an office. There's the same actors, they're just playing a different role.
Yeah.
And so in terms of the healing, are there relationships that maybe were uncomfortable in a different life that maybe now maybe there's still some issues around that? Is there need to be healing around that? Of course around that. So it's important to identify that, especially working one-on-one, obviously. Important to identify those issues that need resolution, whether it's within the body, within the soul, or the emotions, the mindset, or with relationships in your life. Another story I tell in the book that was told to me during training was that the teacher at the time was doing this specific lesson that day, was talking about how when he was talking to a friend of his, oh yeah, I'm learning hypnotherapy. This is God way back in the 1980s when he was doing this his training, and he said, oh yeah, man, I'm learning past life regression. I think I'm going to focus on past life regression. And his friend said, oh yeah, my ex-wife went to did a past life regression, and in her past life regression, it was kind of a medieval time, and she was kind of an instigator and for the community and against the authority figures, and they wanted to make an example of her because she had a big mouth and was creating issues within the authority figures, and so they threw her in jail and then tortured her to death and starved her to death. And during her past life regression, she made the connection that the jailer who was torturing her was her husband in this current life, and they got divorced.
Yeah.
Because there's no healing. There's no resolution. It's just like I'm sorry about that experience. That sounded intense. See you later. And there's somewhere in New Mexico, there's a divorce decree in the county building. I'm sure there's other issues with that relationship, but the final straw was, and you did this to me. There's a divorce decree that mentions a past life regression. because there is no healing around it,
Yeah.
and it destroyed somebody's life,
Yeah.
two people's lives. Maybe they had kids, and so it's paramount. That story has stuck with me over the many, many, many years since I heard it, and it focuses my work on doing past life regression, on what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, when I had my episode of, the horse falling on me, I was in training. And so we were practicing on each other. And I don't even know if at that point we even realized that we could go and past life regression and somatic work. And I think the person just didn't know what to, like, what am I supposed to do with this? So, yeah. So now, obviously we have the training, but that's kind of, but I just realized that I never really went back and like tried to tap into that again and like finish it,
Yeah.
So interesting. So what's one truth about the soul that you wish every person could understand?
I think one truth, that's a very interesting question. I think one truth is that we're here to learn and grow. We've talked about that, mentioned that already. But I think if you really took that to heart, and it's not to excuse bad behavior or say you didn't have trauma in your life or you aren't hurting or in pain right now. But if you look, especially like those Michael Newton books, Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, and you look at the broader picture of it, I think it makes it a little less heavy. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Doesn't mean you weren't in pain or you didn't have a traumatic experience in that. And people shouldn't be in jail or you shouldn't have protective orders against people or anything. But you look at it and how does it serve you in terms of your growth and your learning? And it could become an empowering tool for a person.
Yeah.
To when you flip that story and say, this can actually empower me to become an even better person, maybe, and grow and develop as a spiritual person, a soul. And it doesn't, it's not that it makes things easier, but I think you can gain a more profound and in-depth healing and growth when you realize that you can take the power.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, and I know it's cliched and I know it's obnoxious even to like tell somebody who is hurting and who is in pain, well, aren't you going to learn from that? And it's like, I know the way it sounds. And it's difficult when you're in it.
Yeah.
To like have somebody who's not hurting and not in pain tell you, well, what can you learn from this and how can you grow? I know that's obnoxious, but it becomes empowering. If you can get past the obnoxiousness and the clichédness of it, it actually becomes very empowering to you. And you can release a lot of that heaviness. And it doesn't mean there's not still work to be done and it's not more healing to be done, maybe, but if we're here to learn and to grow and to develop, and sometimes it's that stress and that tension and that pressure, coal makes the diamond through the pressure. Doesn't mean it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And sometimes, maybe it's the uncomfortable stuff that gives us the most growth and the most learning. Again, it's not to excuse bad behavior or even to, let them out of, jail early. It's your healing and your growth and your development. And by releasing a lot of that heaviness and understanding that you're a soul here with maybe a higher purpose to evolve to, how can you use this to help propel you forward?
Yeah.
And so
Your healing is your responsibility, unfortunately, and it doesn't really matter what the other party does or doesn't do. It's still your responsibility to do what you can to.
And it's a mind twist. What if that person is part of your soul group? They had to hire an actor to play Darth Vader.
Yeah.
When they do those World War II movies, they have to hire an actor to play, the people on the other side. So, and that's where it becomes, and again, it becomes mind twisting, and it's a hard one to kind of wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
When you say, okay, well, what if a member of my soul group or my soul family, or maybe a neighboring soul group, sort of like a school has 3 fourth grade classes with their own teacher, but they get together at the end of the year to do the big production, big school play together, whatever. Well, what if one of those people, a extraordinary loving soul, volunteered to play that person, and and again, it doesn't excuse the behavior.
Yeah.
And people need to be in, the actions have consequences, and maybe that's part of their learning and growth, or maybe the karma, and that's a whole another 5-hour conversation.
Right.
But and again, it becomes mind twisting.
Yeah.
And
it's fascinating.
It's fascinating and amazing, and you just need a couple of cups of tea to try to wrap your head around it, and that's where the books come in, and that's where the groups where you can sit and chat about this stuff. It's not look at this 45-minute conversation we're having together, and that's going to resolve everything.
Yeah.
But hopefully it'll open it up to exploring some more, and finding some healing through that.
Yeah. So you have a new book. Where can we find your book?
The best place is Amazon. It's I have it right here, actually. I didn't mean for that to happen. I was looking at the other day. It's right here. Oh, you got it. Yeah, how about that? Amazon's the best place, just because I can control the pricing a little bit better on that, because it's that self-published thing. I'm sure your bookstore can order it, but it's going to be, with the shipping and to them, and then they're needing to pay their rent and all that. But so find it on Amazon, and you can find more about my book and me at sacredmysteryhypnotherapy.com. If anybody's interested in more, information about this or wants to chat, I'm happy to talk with people over the phone or email, because it's a fascinating conversation.
Yeah. So all your links will be in the show notes. Craig, I know that people listening are going to be replaying in their heads tonight, thinking about that one fear, that one anxiety, and where it's coming from. And so that curiosity alone is really the first breadcrumbs to healing. So get in touch with Craig. Like I said, all his links are in the show notes. Thanks again for coming on today.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much.
I hope this conversation with Craig Meriwether opened something in you, even if it is just a curiosity that healing might go deeper than talk therapy or surface level mindset work. If you've been feeling stuck in patterns you can't explain, or emotions that don't seem to belong to this version of your story, maybe there's something more to uncover. Maybe your healing journey is bigger than just this lifetime. Craig's work in past life regression shows us that the subconscious doesn't care about time, it cares about truth. And when we access that, real transformation is possible. If you're curious about working with your own subconscious in a grounded, safe way, check out Somatic Mindful Guided Imagery Sessions with me. It's a powerful path to uncovering your inner wisdom and finally feeling at home in your own body. The link is in the show notes. Want to be a guest on Mind Your Own Karma? Head over to mindyourownkarma@gmail.com to tell me how your work aligns with my healing mission here on the podcast. Thanks for being here today, Karma Crew. And as always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.